Remedy. By clarifying your status as a private individual and correcting all mistakes and assumptions, you throw light on the matter. The system no longer has darkness to hide behind. You stand on your own authority, take responsibility, and in doing so become a man whom, in the eyes of the law, no longer needs to be nannied or looked after. Bear in mind that in doing so the system will want to kick back and may have a tantrum since it will no longer be in charge. You become the grown-up. The most important thing to remember is to keep your cool, let go any fear, stay strong and steadfast in your belief, and know that you will ride the wave to the other side. Let the system do its thing without being drawn into the drama and believing in its lies and its need to control you. Being civilized. Roman law. We are currently under the influence of Roman law, civil law, jurisdiction. This is technically a foreign jurisdiction and has no place in this land. The law of this land is the common law, and its roots predate the Roman invasion. It is an interesting observation that whereupon a child comes into the world not down the birth canal, or into birth naturally, under the admiralty jurisdiction, having been removed from the mother by cutting the womb open, a child is said to have been delivered by caesarean section, and it does not surprise me at all that the suggestion therefore implies that the child is still subject to Roman law. Act of Supremacy 1558. During the heyday of the Roman Empire, the Pope decided to claim jurisdiction over the whole world. To cut a story short, in England this papal supremacy was overthrown in 1529 by the Act of Parliament, culminating in the Act of Supremacy 1558. This legislation is still present on legislation.gov and details that all powers are returned to the Crown. Under British Constitution, the Crown is symbolic of the power of the people, Her Majesty. The Queen Elizabeth is a figurehead, a representation, a title of office which she, the human being, takes under contract and oath to the people, promising to work on their behalf. Perverting the Crown. The ones left holding the baby have taken power and control by deceptive and devious means. The Crown in its true symbolic meaning has been undermined, distorted, and wrapped up in veils of deception, layers of misdirection, and completely perverted from what the true intentions were. This has been a long battle between dark and light, and has always been about power, control, freedom, and our right to evolve into a full mature capacity. The Crown is no longer the people, Her Majesty. The Crown is a corporation dealing in stocking, cattle breeding and property. You are the property, the cattle, or chattel as we sometimes say. You are what the rich and powerful are getting rich on. Status. By accepting the legal name and the legal title with action such as having a national insurance number, you are implicitly consenting to a system which assumes your status to be that of a corporation or an employee of the UK corporation. In law, a corporation is prescribed its rights, which are actually artificial rights or privileges, and you have duties to perform which are attached to those privileges. As a man or woman in the flesh, or the natural person, the human being, or the private individual, you have natural rights under the natural law or the universal law. By manipulating your status without your full knowledge, you are being led into contracting as a corporation within the system in ways which are exploiting you, fines, utility bills, etc. Your lack of knowledge about how the system works means it can extort your money and everything else that you are and will ever amount to in this life by deceiving you and detaching you from your true nature and status as a human being. In person. When you interact with an office of state, you are automatically engaging with it in person, i.e. seen as the corporate or employee status, subject to the rules of the corporate CEO, the UK corporation. The person is used by the state and is a term given to your corporate employee or entitled status, so it and you can be identified for their purposes, usually these days in extorting your money from you. There are many definitions for person in the legal dictionary, and in a court, in person means one whom is representing oneself and not instructing a solicitor. If you've not claimed your property and your rights, you still remain the property of the Crown. When you engage with the system or an office of state as the person or the title or the role of office or the legal entity, it is the only part of you it will recognise. It does not acknowledge the man or the woman in their natural status with full rights as a human being. You as a man or woman are considered as acting in person as the corporate status or the legal entity, so assumes you to be in charge of the affairs for which you have entered the court. When you don't act accordingly, you are taken to be an imposter trying to claim on the Crown's property, or you're taken as being disciplined by the CEO, the civil enforcement officer, and so, of course, you dispense punishment. This YouTube animation gives a common view of what the straw man or the legal person is. Have a look. I'm not sure it's the full picture, but it might help you form your own view. Flagging up Admiralty law. I think by now, if you've read most of this presentation, you are getting the picture that something quite curious is at work within the court system. If you're still not quite sure and you need more evidence, spot the clues which are hidden in plain sight. Notice the flags, tassels, wigs, gowns and uniforms, the dock, the birth certificate. It's all there. Flesh and blood. As a man or woman, you have full rights to be and do as you will, so long as you do no harm to another. All are equal under the law. No one is above the law. Your rights end where mine begin, and if I have given my word or my promise to do something, then I ought rightly to honour it. This forms the basis of the common law, and it relates specifically to the flesh and blood, man and woman. The common law is man's expression on earth of the natural law to which we are all subject. The common law relates to men and women in relation to being born onto the land. The common law. The common law is the nearest thing to your best friend when thinking about asserting your rights and dealing with the system when considering extracting yourself from it. The common law connects you back to the land of the living and stops any claim that the system may force on you. When standing for the common law as a man or woman, you are taking full responsibility and liability for yourself. You have full inalienable rights on the land. They cannot be taken away. The common law is simple, primarily adversarial, and is common sense for the common man and woman. At common law, the man and the woman are sovereign, the highest authority, and the one with standing. Common law principles. I do no injury, harm, or cause loss to another being. I keep a lawful contract. I don't bear false witness. My rights end where yours begin. The courting game. Going to court. What does court mean to you? Note your thoughts, feelings and perceptions in relation to thinking about a court. It's likely that your previous experiences with courts and the law will determine some of those responses. Here are some thoughts and comments from others. Law, justice, rules to live by, doing something wrong, wrongdoing or trying to put things right, making fair, impact on life, no need to fear if on the right side of the law. Hey, there's that chained up unicorn again. Perception is key. Some people also express these thoughts. Confusion, it's a complicated system with unknown rules and procedure. Inadequacy, not competent to deal with our own affairs and resolve our own disputes. Beholden, to have to follow rules. Fear, loss of freedom or assets. obey, a judge playing God over our lives, an expense for not really doing much. Expanding perception. When we think of a court, it may instantly throw ideas of a judge into your mind and a typical courtroom scenario. However, if we expand on that definition, a court is an arena where a game is played, a meeting place where dignitaries meet to discuss business, such as the King's Court. The act of courting is when two people engage with each other to decide if they want to take it further, as well as being a place where a judge makes a judgment. So we can see that a court is really a place where perhaps business takes place, or where adversaries sort out disputes, or where an agreement or meeting of the minds happens under the supervision of a fair and honourable judge, we would hope. Court is for a judge who makes a judgment or a decision after weighing up all of the facts from parties present at the hearing to resolve disputes. A meeting for dignitaries or nobility, people with titles whom discuss important matters of business and state, courtiers at a king's court, etc. A verb, an act of meeting or getting together to come to some agreement. Or a game of tennis, a ball game, a competition, scoring points, opponent and adversarial contest, where a set of rules are followed strictly to make the game fair. So what's really happening in a court? The first thing to know is what jurisdiction of court you are dealing with. When you are summoned to a magistrate's, you can only be recognised in person. This means that if you attend a magistrate's, your rights as a man or woman under the common law are not recognised. It is outside of or above their jurisdiction. You appear there purely to be the guilty party. You are assumed to be an impostor, fraudster, or a liable party in a trust arrangement because the legal name, your Mr., Mrs., Miss name or entitlement, is already claimed as property of the Crown. In a county court, common law is available, but you must know how to move a court to be able to attend and get a favourable outcome. Please note, I have not attended a courtroom. As a man or woman, you have no business there except if you yourself have a claim against another, or if you have caused injury, harm or loss to another man or woman, or child or environment, being, etc. Look, it's really important to note the difference between lawful and legal. Lawful is, in essence, natural, it's inherent, whereas legal is artificial and man-made, and by consent. Lawful, what's the difference? To properly comprehend what really goes on in a court, we must make the distinction between lawful and legal. Two different systems are at work side by side. One is natural and is law. It is inherent in us, it's knowing the difference between right and wrong. It's about our rights as individuals and about something which is greater than ourselves, e.g., when we smile, the world smiles back, or you only get out what you put in. You may know the word karma, and this is an easy way to understand the natural law. What goes around comes around. It is a greater force than ourselves, and it is natural, self-regulating. Everyone is equal under the natural law. Okay, legal. What's the difference? I look upon the legal as an expression of artificial law. It has been created by people on earth. It is a set of rules that are imposed and maintained by a tangible and particular group of individuals. It is decided by and introduced by men. Not all legal rules apply to all people all of the time. Different rules apply in different ways, different countries or different legal systems, for example. In the UK Parliament, a bunch of people decide what legislation to make up this week, and by painstaking process, eventually the legislation, or the rules to abide by, are made and kept in books or parchments and stored for reference. It is man-made and not inherent. It is convoluted, complicated, and only a select few really understand it, or claim to. The Law Society is a group of individuals, all of whom have a first loyalty to that group, including judges, solicitors, etc. It governs everything to do with law and legalities.